We are live recording. How are you?
Good. Good. Things are good. Last couple of weeks, we've had a really nice bump in paid signups. There's some just nice stuff. Yeah, there's a lot more traffic coming to the site. Just some neat things going on.
You
Yeah.
want to
On the
talk about
flip,
Yeah, go
yeah.
ahead. No, go ahead, please.
Well, just there's other weird stuff too. Like, man, there's like some little. I'm trying to find this low hanging fruit of stuff to fix. Like, I'm still trying to sift through. I go through all these cancellation surveys and I send all these emails out to, people who cancel and even emails out to new customers trying to like look for, what's making them tick, but also what's kind of moving them away from Highrise. And I'm trying to find like, the low hanging fruit to fix. And there's some stuff that stands out. And I don't know, it borders on like, sometimes we think it's like, oh, it's going to take so much work. It's going to take forever to fix it. It'll take forever to get to it. And then sometimes I'll have an epiphany and be like, oh my God, we could pull this off pretty easily. Like we could maybe get this done in like a day, like a solution to this problem. And then like, I was just about to brag a little bit. I thought I had solved something here, technologically and like, kind of a pain point users have had. And sure enough, like it performs like shit. Like technologically, the database, it just melted down. And so now I'm back to like, God damn it. Like, I don't know, just this whip swing roller coaster effect of like, oh, we'll never get to it. Oh, wait, there's maybe success. And now I'm back to like, I don't know, maybe we won't be able to fix it.
Yep.
That kind of thing has just happened.
Yeah, I get that. We've been, it's funny. Sort of speaking of that, I had a call with a customer today. I've been doing a couple demos a day. Not every day, but most days with customers. And this guy had some really great points. And one of the things that bugged him, speaking of low-hanging fruit, was this tiny detail, but I mean, technically tiny detail, but for him it meant a lot. So I'm not suggesting that it's not an important thing. It's just like the email address, the reply to email address in Basecamp. So Basecamp sends messages out and people can reply via email if they want. They don't have to log in or sign in or set up accounts. The reply to address is sort of a long string of sort of, characters, things that don't make any sense, basically. It's a tokenized string, it's a hash, whatever. And we've never really thought much about it because it's like, we're like, who looks at the reply to address? Who really cares? The person's name is there. It's just their address is weird. But he made a really good point. He's like, I'm using this with clients and it looks weird. And they're like, I don't know if they're concerned about it necessarily, but I'm concerned about it. And I don't want them to be seeing something that looks strange and techie. And it was a really good point. And it's just something that, we got used to not thinking about. But it got me think after the call, I was talking to some people about tweaking that and like, what can we do? Maybe it's still some sort of a hash, but maybe it could be, 8 characters and it can cover, I don't know what the permutations are, but let's call it like 3 billion combinations. And that would probably be fine versus like a 24 character hash, which is crazy complex and looks even worse. Like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 characters, maybe okay. Yep. So anyway, little small things like that. Now I don't know if that wouldn't necessarily move the needle exactly, but it's a really good point because there's a lot of people probably wouldn't have mentioned that bugs them. And that's one of the real values of speaking with customers is you hear little things that they never would really tell you otherwise.
Yeah. Totally. We, have you had much success with your entrance survey? Do you get much value out of that? I think you guys do one where you might encourage people to kind of take a survey after they've signed up for Basecamp.
Yeah. Actually, Noah posted something about that today. Let me go take a quick look, actually. Yep. So we're doing what's called a tracking survey. So I'm here in Basecamp. This wasn't okay. So we're doing a survey on a cohort, which is about close to 2,000 active current Basecamp and BC2 and BC3 owners. I think we're going to track them for a series of months and send them surveys every once in a while. So this was not an entry survey, but it was I'm trying to figure out who the audience was in terms of like, were they brand new or I'm just trying to get a sense of this. Anyway, I don't know who they were specifically, but we got about a 7% response rate on those 1,900. It's not incentivized. It's just an email-only survey. 8 people unsubscribed from future mailings. 1 person canceled after receiving it. And
shoot,
yeah, that happens. What do you do?
Sure.
Can't be afraid of that. And also that compares favorably to a control group that weren't surveyed. So that's just sort of natural attrition. It just happened to have
of course
after we sent it.
Yeah.
We asked, I'll tell you the questions we asked. We asked about the perceived speed of Basecamp. Does Basecamp feel fast when you use it on your phone, tablet, or computer compared to other things you're using on your phone, tablet, or computer? 82% said it felt as fast or faster than other things they use. So that's is that good or bad? Don't know, but we're tracking this cohort over time, so we'll see if that increases or decreases. We asked about time savings people realize from using Basecamp. Basecamp saves most account owners, according to the survey, about 10 to 20 hours per month. How likely are they to recommend Basecamp? We're about 90% on that. How did people? We're asking about future usage in general. Curious, how often you expect to use Basecamp in the next month? So curious, are people winding down their usage or winding up their usage? Let's see. The 40% say more than I did in the past month. About the same is 55%. So about 95% say the same or more. So we get some interesting stats on that. The entrance survey we used to do mostly around industry type. We were curious about why they are here, who they were.
Yep.
And the exit survey we still do on cancellations. I'll kind of be more prepared. I didn't know we were going to talk about that. So if I can get some more data on that for the next call.
Was the industry stuff interesting to you back when you were figuring out industries?
It is, although what's very interesting about that is industry. People's roles industries are interesting, but they don't really say a whole lot. For example, if you are a web designer or a marketing designer or a product designer and you work for Cisco Foods, you're in the food service industry, but your job has nothing to do with food service, right? So it's kind of you got to be careful about what it means when you see results like that, because you don't really know who you're talking to.
Right.
So, but it was interesting though, nonetheless, because we learned a lot about, definitely a big, huge client services firms of all sorts are very strongly represented with Basecamp. A lot of people use Basecamp with clients, stuff like that. So that was big. Saw a lot of church usage, church, synagogues.
We are too. Yeah.
Very interesting. A lot of sort of religious groups using Basecamp, which was interesting. And again, it was probably all these groups are probably underrepresented at some level, because some people might have answered that question and said they were in the web design industry, even if they worked for a university or something. But anyway, we could probably ask the question a little bit differently, what is your role versus what is your industry? And in fact, we may ask that too. I haven't looked at the incoming survey for a while.
That's helpful to hear, because I'd like to maybe craft something like this. But that's a really good lesson learned that you just shared that may steer us to ask that differently.
Yeah, I would maybe ask about role. What's your role in your current organization? And then you can get a better sense of who people are.
Yeah.
Then, what industry are they in? Because you don't really learn a whole lot that way.
Yep.
You could ask both too.
Yeah, totally.
Cool. Yeah. Let's see. We can take a couple questions. For those of you, by the way, who are interested in asking questions, just do a /Q and then write your question, and it'll show up in our questions panel over here. And then we can ask, or we can answer some of these. I'll just take the first one here. Zane, our longtime listener. Thank you, by the way. How does Basecamp prioritize new features? So we do it in a variety of different ways. One of the things we're doing now, I think I may have mentioned this in a recent show, is every 6 weeks we're doing a new cycle of work. And in that cycle of work, we're trying to bite off 1 or 2 big things that are going to take between 2 and 6 weeks each to do, and then a handful of small things that are going to take between 1 day and 2 weeks to do. So we're calling them big batch, small batch. And right now we're focused primarily on prioritizing features that we wanted to get into the product at launch that we did not get in by launch. So the product is not as complete an offering as we'd like it to be initially, but we didn't get everything in. So our current priorities are simply getting a couple more things in that we would hope to have launched with, and tighten a few things up. And then I would say in the next 3 months from now, we'll start working on more brand new ideas, because we'll have a lot more things sort of tightened up and buttoned up in the fundamental area, in the basics and the fundamentals. So prioritization is not just about requests or desires, it's also about timing. And for us right now, we're just trying to still kind of add a few more things that we want to get in. Like, for example, the next tool we're going to be adding is a forwards tool, which lets you forward any email from the outside into Basecamp and then act on it. You can either reply to it, or you can convert it into a document or a message or a to-do list or a to-do item. This has been a big request. We had this in a previous version of Basecamp, and so we're doing the work to bring it into Basecamp 3, but we're doing it in a better way, in a different way. But we're kind of filling that hole that we left by not delivering it initially. And then probably the next cycle we'll do a few more little things like that, or big things like that. And then I would say come March or so, we'll start thinking about what's the next sort of brand new sort of stuff to work on. And that's when priorities get involved, because you'll have things customers have asked for. You'll have ideas that you want to do. Like, one of the things I'd like us to explore is a brand new way to organize and divvy up work in Basecamp. We've always used to-dos for that. And I've got a new idea that I want to explore, and that's sort of a little bit of an R&D project. So do we devote some energy to R&D? It sort of depends on the timing and who's available and what long-running projects we have going on. And so I'm not really being specific, because there is no specific answer. It has to do with timing. It has to do with mood. It has to do with who's available. Like, we have some people in the organization who are really good at sort of infrastructure work, and we're going to be redoing the way people are invited to Basecamp shortly, which is sort of the domain of 2 or 3 different developers here. And so if they're busy with that, they wouldn't be working on other things, which might be something else that they're good at. So we kind of have to see what resources are available and move that way. It's a long answer without really giving you one, but it's just a wide variety of variables that go into play here, or in consideration. Nathan, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, prioritization, I guess, it changes with what's important. I feel like when we started with Highrise, it was very important for us to, I think, really learn the problems and kind of walk in the shoes of our customers and get a lot of empathy. So some of the features that we prioritized were simply things that were going to get us in the tool every day. So, we focused on, things that I felt like were gaps that customers were still asking for, but were, really important to us to do things like the help desk solution that we have in there now, Good Morning, and ways for us to send email directly out, so that we were just interfacing with Highrise more and more and more. And that's all been good. I feel like this year, now with the new year, we're focusing a lot more on thinking of things like churn and retention and user growth. And so it shifts a little bit. A lot of the few things that we've just been looking at today, like, have nothing really to do with us. It's simply customer requests, things that we probably won't get a whole lot of use out of, but I think they'll make a big dent in a lot of ways. A lot of our customers use Highrise. So it really all depends. There is really one cool thing, though, that I've always kind of enjoyed about prioritization. This is a kind of a tangent. I'll keep it short. Joel Spolsky wrote a really great post on prioritizing features or requests, and he basically it's kind of a formula of basically looking at the importance of something, but also how fast you can get something done, like the cost of it doing it. And so when you combine those two things, I don't know if he's got a really great post. I'm not going to do it justice by saying it here, but go look at Joel Spolsky on, prioritization. And I think he multiplies the two numbers. You grade it in importance from like 1 to 3, and then you grade it in terms of like cost. If it's going to take a lot of time or money, 1 through 3. And the things, it's interesting, because something that might not be that important, but it's also really easy, might actually be something you want to do now because it's so easy. You can get it done. It's low-hanging fruit. But something that's like medium important, but really hard, it might fall lower on the priority list than some of the stuff that's easier to accomplish. Because you can get more wins out the doors. It's an interesting thing. It's not just thinking about like importance, but it's also thinking about how easy it is to get this. How many wins can you get done? Because that means a lot to customers too. Not so much that you got a really important feature, but you got a bunch of great stuff done. So I keep that in mind.
Yeah. Then we also just had this board meeting, right? And we just talked about sort of, priorities around some stuff there too. So it's like a week before that board meeting, your priorities are probably different. And maybe now there's a couple new things you're thinking about. So it really is all over the place. I think that's sort of important you still want to set a path and a tone in general, but being able to bounce around because new information is made available, I think is always useful. Let's see. All right, let's ask. We have a new question here. New caller. Juan wants to know. What is the worst part of managing a SaaS business? Worst part. I think you can get caught if you have a successful one. If things are going well, you can get caught up very easily in believing that the decisions you made early on are the ones that got you to where you are today. So it's hard. This isn't even a SaaS thing, I guess. So maybe this is not the right answer for this question, but I feel like it's easy to sort of begin to protect your prior decisions and be unwilling to shake things up a bit here and there. But that's not really a SaaS thing. That's just something I find to be difficult in general with in my company at least, and I think others that have been around for a while and have done well, that you it's easy to latch on to the decisions you made. Like, for example, like the to-dos stuff in Basecamp. I think there's significantly better ways to manage and organize work than to-do lists. But to-do lists are very strong for certain things, but they're not so great for other things. And I feel like we've, as a company, have gotten so used to working with to-do lists that we have a hard time imagining how something can be better than that. And so it's partially my role to bend us and to push us a bit and to make us uncomfortable with some new ideas here and there. And it's always a tough battle. And I like those battles because it's like, it's on me then to prove why I think this would be better. And so I have to explain it clearly and get people on board and show some progress and stuff. But I think that's one of the biggest challenges in any company that's been around for a while, which is not the same challenge as a company that's brand new. You don't have to worry about previous decisions. So that's kind of I feel bad that was my answer because it's not really what you asked, but I don't really know. To me, the SaaS part of it is not the interesting part. It's more about what's the worst part of managing a business, and that's sort of complacency and getting used to things you've done well before. I don't know. I feel that was just weak. Anyway, what do you think, Nathan?
No, I thought it was interesting because you bring up a really good point. I think you dig a lot of people would dig this book. I'm reading this book called Nonsense. I believe it's pretty new. I believe it just came out, but it's all about how we face ambiguity, and business is just like one pile of ambiguity after another. I mean, you're just faced with how to compete, and you don't have a lot of when you're competing, you don't have a lot of control over what all these other people are doing, and there's just a lot of variables. We psychologically as people, we in the face of ambiguity, we either do two things. We go back to decisions we made a long time ago, or beliefs, and we hold on even stronger to them, or we decide to kind of adapt. And it's funny. It's funny because it's a really interesting moment of how people choose to react. You might really enjoy reading that book.
Okay.
This is something I think you've brought up on this show, kind of a flavor in terms of what is the worst part of managing a SaaS business. My father used to run a golf course pro shop, and I used to work for him as a 13-year-old kid, doing all sorts of crazy stuff, not even stuff that's I'm old enough now. I doubt there's a statute of limitations, but I was selling beer on a golf course at 13,
right.
that, stuff that just makes no sense. But today, but like customers would come up to you, hand you money, tip you, buy something, smile, or be pissed, right? Like there was a very visceral reaction to how you served them, right? I mean, if they were having a great day and you continue to provide good service or give them the thing that they wanted that they were really happy about or gave them a good deal, they smiled and you knew you like were doing something good. There was just, you knew they would come back tomorrow. You know, and if you did bad, like you kind of knew right away when they were walking out of the door that they weren't happy with the fact that the golf clubs were too expensive or whatever. With SaaS, it's so different. Like, I mean, it's so faceless usually, right? It's like I'm struggling now. Like we're doing all this stuff about retention and like, it's like, it's hard to get that same, you know, psychological, like, I don't know, feeling, right? Like, cause we're not meeting all these folks in person. Like a lot of it's just over email or, you know, some form of text. Sometimes it's very short. Sometimes it's just a couple hundred characters. And it's just like, what did that mean? Like, did they really like the tool or did they not like it? It's harder that way. And so you have to do a lot of work, you know, to, like you're doing this awesome job of like doing demos now and getting yourself talking with people and in front of people again. And yeah, I hope to do a much better job with that too. I think that's one of the hardest parts. The SaaS just kind of takes you away from some of that high bandwidth communication you get when you run like a retail store.
Yeah, you know, that's the right answer actually. I think I wrote about this in Inc. a while back, which was so I've gotten to know this owner of a grocery store nearby me called Olivia's Market, where I live here in Chicago, and I'm really envious of him. And it's funny because he's envious of me. He's like, you know, you're in the software business, you know, you don't have inventory. You know, you just make stuff and people buy it and they pay you every month. And it's like me, I've got inventory and produce is going bad. And I've got like, you know, coffee that no one's buying. And I got to send up like, so we all are envious of each other in that way. But the thing I really envy about his business is that he sees his customers every day. He can ask them questions. He can say hello to them. He can smile for them. He can get to know them and see if they're having a bad day and give them a gift if they are, or whatever, right? He has that direct interaction with the people who are paying him money. Or he can, it's up to him, right? But he could sit at the front door every day and say hello to everybody. He could work the register and talk. In our business, it's very difficult. We've, you know, hundreds of thousands of people using our products. You know, there's no hope in hell that you could even talk to a tiny fraction of them technically, right? Meanwhile, this guy can talk to every single one of his customers every single day. And I really admire that and sort of long for that at some level. So we're trying to do a lot more this year. We're trying to do a lot more in-person meetings and discussions with customers. I'm going to be doing a few demos a week for as long as I know, just all the way through. They'll either be Skype or in person. We're going to start doing a workshop, hopefully monthly in our office, showing people how we use Basecamp and how they can use it, and how they can change their process and make it better and all these things. So like, we're going to start doing a lot more of this because the value is so high, even though if you can only reach 1,000 people a year in person somehow, or even 500 or something, or even 100, it's so completely worth it, but it's also so challenging and so difficult to do. So that was the right answer. Your answer was the right answer. And that's the challenge. And of course, by the way, it's not just SaaS, right? It's any tech-based selling, anything that's sold online where you don't get to meet your customers. That's really the challenge. We've gone for a bit.
Cool.
This is, I actually kind of like this. Let's ask this one if there is an answer. This is a good question. How has doing this show impacted Basecamp and Highrise? That's a good question. I don't know if it has at all. I think at the very least, it forces us to talk out loud, which is almost never a bad idea, just to like share your thoughts and share your ideas and hear people's questions and explain things. I think we probably originally had intended to do more screen sharing and showing of work. I would still like to do that. Blab doesn't really allow that, so we'd have to go back to Hangouts. But I also really like this Blab, the interactions that happen on Blab, so it's kind of a tricky thing there. But I sense that if we did more showing of work, it might have more immediate impact in some ways. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts, Nathan?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because it's like, it's hard, like I'm spending a lot of time these days on looking at things like analytics, and it's like, it's hard. It's hard to always provide like direct, direct reflection on like, what was the direct impact? Like, we're doing these shows, but like, I'm not seeing a lot of leakage from like, I drop a bunch of links to Highrise and Basecamp in say our YouTube channel, right? Like I used to do this. I was doing this like crazy before the holidays. I was dumping these links over in the descriptions of all of our YouTube videos, right? And our YouTube videos were getting some decent watches and traffic, but it was like, I wasn't seeing a lot of carryover then in our analytics over to say Highrise, right? It wasn't like some new user was finding you or me on YouTube and being like, oh man, these guys really are doing some cool shit. Like, let me go sign up for Highrise. So what does that mean? Again, I don't know. It's like, it's one of those things where it's just like, well, I don't know that impact. I'm not sure. I guess it maybe that didn't really do anything, but I get an email today from a guy who's like, he's using Draft. He loves Highrise. And then he's like asking me all these questions. And he's like, oh, by the way, I love watching work in progress. So like, here's a guy who like, he just now like, because of the show has helped become like a loyal user of now all the things that I've been kind of involved with that. And that might help keep him around hopefully as a Highrise customer for a long, long time. So maybe I'm making an impact on a lot of current people who are Highrise users who found the show because I mentioned it in the newsletter. So maybe I'm not getting a lot of new signups, but I'm just kind of opening up to people who would have quit because we're, if we had been just a nameless other CRM tool or faceless other CRM tool on the web or something. So it's tough. I can't measure it, but I do hear some good anecdotes, and I like doing it. So that's it.
I also think that we're so early in doing this, and you're not going to see anything anyway. Like if we'd started to say, is blogging worth it in 99?
Right.
The answer would have been no. And so, but that's not why you do it. Hopefully a big part of this is that we're able to help some other people and help share our thinking, and maybe it will influence some other people. Maybe some people will tell us things that we hadn't thought about. Answering questions that people have is always a good way to decide, to sort of figure out where you stand on something. So I don't know. I mean, there's no way to really measure the immediate impact of these things in my mind. And if there was some like crazy popular one-time show, whatever, like that would fade away too. And so it's more about just doing it because we enjoy doing it, and whatever happens. We have already cut back. We were doing them daily, and we've discussed amongst ourselves that we might end up just doing them twice a week for a while because we're both pretty busy with some other things. The first few months of the year are collectively our busiest times of the year. So we might just do Tuesdays and Thursdays for a while, and then maybe do more. We'll see. But we want to keep the streak going, just maybe not we're not able to do it every day, and then it's better just to commit to what we can actually manage, and then always add later versus disappointing by people expecting we'd be there every single day. So
yeah, and I've gotten a lot of use just out of. I mean, it's not the impact is just it's been just about getting a chance to talk with you. Like I'm not in the office, you're not in the office even like not now. I don't know if you were in today, but it's like just it's hard to just meet all the time, and like I've gotten some valuable stuff out of this. Even just an example was just from this, just hearing about your entrance interview, like, the survey. We'll probably do it a little different now, just based on talking to you for 2 minutes on how you did it. It's that might be huge.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Cool. Well, yeah, this is fun. I'm enjoying this. Hope everyone else is. It's late, so it's late here in Chicago at least. So we're going to call it a night, and we will hopefully, yeah, you too. Hopefully you'll be back Thursday, and I'll see you tomorrow night for dinner.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. And hopefully it's warmer where everyone else is besides us.
Yeah. Later on, everyone.
All right. Good night, guys. Bye.